It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. For the first time in 40 years, I had problems putting on my headphones.
Yeah, you did there.
What the hell? Gary, how are you?
Well, I was a little bit worried. I thought my hockey team got beat 9-0, and that wasn't the case.
No? Oh, you woke up and saw 9-0 defeat, and you thought, naturally,
right,
as a Sabres fan.
Yes. I said, why did they lose it? Oh, this is the Supreme Court decision. It's the
Supreme Court. You know what's weird? I mentioned yesterday, we talked about examples that the Supreme Court were to have upheld the oh, by the way, hi, everybody. Welcome to our show.
Yeah. Good morning and all that other crud.
Yeah, pleasantries and whatnot.
All the stuff that we're forced to do.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we're not forced to do anything.
We hope blah, 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 and further, blah, blah, blah. We're the station that cares.
Yeah.
So the Supreme Court decision
Sometimes
on the ballot thing from Colorado is interesting. We felt it would be overturned. We didn't predict 9-0. But yesterday, we were talking about it, saying, look, if the Supreme Court says, no, it's okay, which we didn't think was going to happen, but if they were to have said, no, it's okay, states can do this, then forget about it just being, for this reason, anything unconstitutional, which would mean anytime any president, any sitting president, or any president running for re-election or whatever, was found to have acted unconstitutionally by the Supreme Court with an executive order. And I used as an example the recess appointments with Obama. I used that example because it was a 9-0 decision against Obama. And then we come back, and it was funny because I get an alert, and my new truck is reading my alert off to me. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's not exactly what you're looking for. It's the robot voice. It's AI reading it to me. But I'm like, oh, interesting. And then you texted me, and it read me the text.
Oh,
9-0, show's done.
Yeah, I woke up.
Yeah.
I woke up and I grabbed my phone. This first thing I saw. Now, we didn't predict 9-0.
No, we didn't.
But
we didn't.
What we did say is that clearly this is one that should be 9-0 because
you did say that a few times.
Yes, because if you look at the 14th Amendment, it's absolutely clear that it is Congress and not the states. You couldn't write it any clearer. And that's, I think, the interesting point. I forgot who it was. I think it was the editor from Breitbart that said, actually, the Supreme Court did the Democrats a service because they keep saying that, that the Republicans and Trump are against democracy,
right,
yet they're for democracy. But you could not get a clear instance of Democrats being against the Constitution of the United States and democracy,
right,
if you wish to use that word.
Yeah.
We'll say constitutional republic, but they're the ones that are setting it. And if you want to put a constitutional republic under the umbrella of a democracy, that is fine.
Yeah.
But the fact is, they are the ones, if you're talking about the umbrella of democracy, which includes a constitutional republic, there's no way you can make the argument that the Supreme Court in the 9-0 part of that decision in any way is against democracy, quote, democracy. In fact, what you saw yesterday was proof that the people that are against the Constitution of the United States are Democrats.
Yeah.
Not all Democrats, because you had in some states where they wouldn't do it. But on the federal level, as we talk about Congress in the federal level and the president and the administration, it's almost unanimous. They're against democracy based on their opinion on this issue because it's that crystal clear.
Yep.
It's that crystal clear as we've read the 14th Amendment, absolutely crystal clear. Congress is in charge. Now, I did see the Democrats attempting to find the, because of the freakout, and there were some freakouts, and we'll get to the freakouts from Democrats coming up here in a little bit. Anybody check on Keith Olbermann? Anybody check? Is he okay tonight, Keith Olbermann? But for us, this has nothing to do with Donald Trump. Nothing.
Yeah.
It has to do. Now, we know that the decision does, but the decision is, what does the Constitution clearly say? It's the Democrats that are against a, quote, democracy. And it's just amazing how blunt they were, in letting Americans know that they're against democracy.
Right.
And so you have Trump out there talking about, it's the Democrats that are against democracy and he is for democracy. And it wasn't a good day for the Democrats. But clearly, as we have said, on that 9-0 ruling, that was absolutely crystal clear. Now, there was some disagreement because the Supreme Court made, and by the way, this is the analysis of what I read and all of the different constitutional experts out there that I actually trust. And some of them differed a little bit on some of the nuances of it, but I think this is basically the overall analysis of it. You had the Supreme Court come out and say the Congress decides. There was a debate going, well, what is the enforcement of this from the federal level? Is it just Congress? Or, for example, can it be a federal prosecutor who charges Trump with insurrection?
Right.
Even if you didn't, I'm adding a little bit to this. I'm extrapolating out a little bit on this. Right. But even if it was a federal prosecutor saying, Trump, committed insurrection, could that lead to a trigger for Congress? And the decision came out and said, you have to be convicted.
Right.
Basically, You have to be convicted of insurrection in order to use that portion of it. And there were some disagreement on that, including questions, from Justice Barrett. Gosh, sorry.
Yeah.
Justice Barrett. But other than that, they made it clear. They made it absolutely clear. You get to the first point that they make, and that's the part that's important. Let me just get to it here. Let me just I'm actually getting to the actual ruling here, and let me get to it because it was so after they explain what it's about. The first thing that comes out here is. I think we're one more away from it. We're close to it. Here it is. This case, the first conclusion they come to. This case raises the question whether the states, in addition to Congress, may also enforce Section 3. We conclude that states may disqualify persons holding or attempting to hold state office, but the states have no power under the Constitution to enforce Section 3 with respect to federal offices, especially the presidency.
Yeah.
Now, the Democrats were screaming, were saying, well, Trump didn't get what he wanted. Trump didn't get what he wanted because they didn't say that he didn't commit an insurrection. That's all hypothetical. And it seemed that the majority wished to stay away from any hypotheticals on this.
Well, any courts, any of these judges' opinions, any of the judges that were involved in the state level, the two judges in Colorado and then the other state judges, or the judges in other states, if they themselves say, I believe he committed that was the act he committed, and I would have found him guilty, that's a cocktail discussion. That's not a legal opinion binding in any way.
Well, you and I brought up the legal arguments. These are the different legal arguments. And one was, number one, he didn't commit an insurrection. He wasn't charged. He wasn't convicted of it. And we said, but the bigger part of it is, and we said it yesterday, is the fact that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether Trump was actually convicted of an insurrection.
Yeah.
The fact is the states have no role in this.
Right.
Even if he was convicted. So that was the major point that you make. The rest are hypotheticals. And, should the Supreme Court start, in my opinion at least, and the majority ruled against us. There were some questions from Barrett, but it was when it comes to the hypothetical, I believe the majority was against the Supreme Court trying to write law in this case as to what would, as to how far or how the federal government decides. And that's why, they said in this case, it's Congress. Congress decides on it. But how Congress decides on it was still left up to the people.
Right.
The majority was afraid. I don't think that the minority, especially the liberals on it, I think they wanted to enter that area in that hypothetical as to, what the Congress can decide it on.
But they didn't. But in this case, they didn't want to go the full measure to have this outcome. They pointed to the chaos. They said that Jackson, Sotomayor, and Kagan wrote an opinion and basically said, look, we can't go down this road. It'd be too chaotic. Well, that's kind of an after the fact of what it would cause. It's not, in my opinion, you're not dealing with the Constitution. But then again, you have to look at who's writing the opinion. So, yeah, they would love to go down that road on a bigger level, maybe on other cases or something, and those three, and visit that. But the fact of the matter is that, it came down very clear. We can't go down this road, and we can't go down this road for the reason that I think because all of us laymen watching this looked at it. I remember Jay Leno in an interview was interviewed about his politics, and he goes, because he said that when he was on the Tonight Show, sometimes he'd do a joke, and then he'd have people saying, "Oh, look, see, he leans right or he leans left or whatever," and he's a guy from Boston, and he indicated in that interview that he leans left. He said, "But I try not to bring it in these days. Try not don't get too political," and he said. And he was talking about this decision or talking about this case, saying, because if I don't want it to be the case that if this side does this, I know the other side's going to do it. And so that's an indication. I think he's just one snapshot of probably millions of liberals who look at it and go, yeah, we can't start down that road.
Right. And I want to make that clear when I say that about creating law. That's my opinion. I didn't see where any of the justices wrote about it. But if you start defining, because that's where they wanted to go. Okay, what is the federal enforcement on it besides Congress? How do you specify what that is? And I think, they just didn't. They didn't in this case wish to go down that road. Even the liberal justices, but it was a cause for concern. From them, which I believe fits the pattern of what they wish to do, which is to create law as to what Congress should be doing. Right. And the majority basically said, well, no, we shouldn't be going down this avenue at all.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't use to create law as I am, but that's the feeling that I got out of it.
Yeah, and Amy Howe at SCOTUS blog. By the way, you got to bookmark SCOTUS blog. Amy Howe, I think, is one of the greatest analysts on things like this, on anything Supreme Court. And she writes here that the three justices, that being Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, complained that, quote, the majority goes beyond the necessities of this case to limit how Section 3 can bar an oath-breaking insurrectionist from becoming president. Well, okay. See, that there's so much to unpack from just that one part of their opinion. It tells you what they believe. They want to apply it here. And it's not that they don't have a problem. It seems, Amy Howe's not writing this, and they didn't write this, but from the takeaway that I get.
You mean SCOTUS Blog didn't write it?
Yeah, SCOTUS Blog,
right.
yeah, and Amy Howe didn't write this, and the three justices didn't write it. But if you read between the lines, what it says to me is that, okay, no, we're okay with the judge calling him an insurrectionist legally, but if we go down this road and take it too far, then we're going to. Not only did the majority goes beyond and basically they decided too much. Actually, they didn't, I don't think. But they're saying also the result of it was chaos. In other words, it would have been chaos from state to state, and it would have, forever. If the Supreme Court upheld this, it would have been. And anybody running for election think about this: governors who do something unconstitutional, right? Or
right.
If a judge just thinks it's unconstitutional, not that it was found unconstitutional,
right? If a judge thinks
it could have been, boom, you're off the ballot.
What is the due process?
Exactly.
And what they're trying to say, I think what they're trying to say is, well, for them to come out and say it must be a conviction, that's going too far. Well, is it?
Right.
Is it? Or are you saying that if you just find an attorney general to say, I'm going to charge him with it and can't get a conviction, well, then that's the same thing as a rogue, as we see right now.
Right.
Rogue attorney generals going after Trump, and the decision they're looking at, the constitutional decision should be made on that rogue judge. Right. And they're saying, and I think what they're setting that standard is, no, it's got to be a conviction, because if there's a conviction for insurrection, that's legal. That's solid.
Right.
Anything else is one person.
Right. And we can't get into that habit.
866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. It's not always easy to spring back from the harsh days of winter to warmer months ahead. From de-icing chemicals to hidden debris underneath snow and ice, winter conditions can do serious damage to your truck. Here's a must-do maintenance check to help you minimize downtime and stay rolling. Have your wheel alignment checked to set you up for a safer and smoother ride. Driving with incorrect wheel alignment can result in reduced performance, tread wear, and steering issues. While you're at it, make sure your tires are properly inflated based on the load you're hauling. Underinflated tires can impact your fuel economy and result in blowouts.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. So a lot of the other stuff, with the decision would be judging on hypothetical. And so in the Supreme Court, when they came out, it was 9-0 again on what the actual issue is right now. Because the actual issue is, can a state take Trump off the ballot?
Right.
And no.
Right.
Whether he was charged, convicted, or not charged or convicted, state can't take him off. That's up to Congress to do it. Now, how far that law goes, I actually think it was reasonable that the majority said it's conviction.
Yeah.
You need conviction to do it.
And
they also talked about the fact that, the case for Trump, can't remove him if he wins in November, you can't remove him either.
Well, this case was about Trump, but this case also is at a time when more polls show him in the lead. And I think that's also the fear of many liberals. What if Trump were president again, and it looks like he might be? Can you imagine what he might do, or judges that agree with him, and blah, blah, blah?
Have a line open. 1-866-90-RED-EYE. Red Eye Radio.
It's Friday Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We're looking at he served in Democrat administrations as a AG. Eli Honig here, writing. I think this was in the Washington Post originally, and said, let me just get to it here. The 14th Amendment challenges against Trump failed everywhere else, and now they've lost by unanimous ruling of the Supreme Court, which has held that it's simply not up to the states to interpret and execute the 14th Amendment on their own. The justices differed a bit on how exactly a federal candidate can be disqualified in the future, but the bottom line vote was a stinging rejection of the state-by-state approach. It's not often that we see Justice Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito on the same page as Sotomayor and Kagan, but the 14th Amendment challenges were so obviously flawed that they ended up creating a cross-ideological consensus. There you go.
Yeah.
And the fundamental problem with the 14th Amendment challenges is that the issue has never been about whether Trump did or did not engage in insurrection. It's about who gets to decide and how.
But it's also exactly. It's the how was the due process.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was fascinating because when it came out, I just woke up. Like I said, I woke up, I saw 9-0, and I texted you and went, whoa, show's done.
Yeah.
And then I sat and waited, got my coffee and went, okay, what is the first? What are the talking points that are going to come out of this? And then I saw, Olbermann, and it was like, okay, this is really entertaining, but he's nuts. And we'll read that coming up here in a little bit. And then you started seeing what was coming out of it was, and someone threw the talking point out there. Well, Trump didn't get what he wanted because they didn't say that Trump wasn't guilty of insurrection. Well, that's not their job.
Yeah.
We said could be a part eventually of the legal case. Those are some of the legal points that they brought up, and his attorneys did it across the board. Hey, he didn't commit insurrection. He wasn't charged with it. He wasn't convicted of it, whatever. But we know how the Supreme Court works. The Supreme Court looked at it and said, well, that's a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Whether or not he committed an insurrection, that's up to the courts to decide, not us. So we're not going to say that he committed insurrection or he didn't commit insurrection. That's not up to us. The only thing that's up to us is the constitutional question of the 14th Amendment, and that is, do the states get a say, and can the states, state by state, disqualify a candidate? And they went, no, it's absolutely clear in the 14th Amendment, which again brings us back to where we were before, that this is the absolute perfect example that the Democrats who claim that they are attempting to protect democracy would destroy it in an instant. Because that's how outrageous the thought process is, and it's across the media, the mainstream media,
right.
And the Colorado AG, who looks weird. I'm sorry, she looks weird.
Yeah.
Those eyes are like, whoa.
Yeah.
And it's just, she didn't have a point. They don't have a point.
No.
They don't have a legal point. They never had a legal point.
Which is very simple. It's a very simple legal point. We have due process here.
Right.
And if we had gone through due process and it was found that he were an insurrectionist as a result of that due process, Colorado would be okay with doing that. That's if they wanted to go down that road. That's where the liberals wanted to go.
Okay, but they wouldn't have been okay doing it.
Removing him from the ballot?
They can't. States can't remove you from the ballot. That's the point.
Well, no, the three judges were saying, well, there is a way to remove him from the ballot.
No, but on the federal level, not the state level.
Right.
They weren't talking the state.
Well,
they were talking.
Well, no, they mentioned states, so I assume that's what they meant.
No,
I have to go back in their opinion, in the three that wrote that opinion.
No, because they were absolutely clear in the consensus that the states have no part. They were absolutely behind the consensus. The state has no part in being able to remove a president via the 14th Amendment and the Insurrection Act. That has to be Congress. Now, they were talking about what level you have to go to, what is the enforcement mechanism of it to trigger that where Congress can do it. And that's where you had the majority say it's got to be a conviction, and they were saying not necessarily so. That's where it was, but they were all behind. I mean, I just read it before, the where they were absolutely clear in there that the state has no role in it whatsoever.
Okay, then some of the analysis I read was wrong then of the three justices who wrote the separate opinion. And it wasn't from Amy House, so it was earlier. So I'll go back and read it.
Okay, yeah, because when I look at it, when I have it, because this is what they agreed on. The case raises a question. This is the full agreement, the 9-0. This case raises a question whether the states, in addition to Congress, may also enforce Section 3. We conclude that states may disqualify persons holding or attempting to hold state office, but states have no power under the Constitution to enforce Section 3 with respect to federal offices, especially the presidency. That was 9-0.
So were they writing that the due process wasn't there, and if the due process had been followed, then he could be removed?
By Congress, or they were saying, can Congress make that decision? Because they didn't get into it specifically.
That's my question.
They didn't get into it, but it was all on the federal level, not the state level. The justices never said that the state, an individual state, not even the liberal justices, that's the point. That's the point they all agreed on, that the states are out of it, whether he committed insurrection or not.
Well, no, they know that
right.
They weren't deciding that the states, it's not their part to decide whether he committed an insurrection. But if he had been found by Congress, then the states have certain powers.
No,
I got to go back and read that.
No, I didn't see it because but the states have no power under the Constitution to enforce Section 3 with respect to federal offices, especially the presidency. That slams the door on it. Now,
right. Well, they can't decide. The states can't decide insurrection, but if Congress does,
the states cannot. They have
I'm talking about. By the way, I'm not talking about what I think and what the Constitution says. I'm talking about what the three liberal justices
believe. And I'm not talking about what I think. I'm reading directly from it. The states have no power under the Constitution to enforce Section 3 with respect to federal offices, especially the presidency, which is clear. Doesn't matter whether he was found guilty of insurrection or not.
Right.
They were talking about what is the power of Congress, defining what Congress can do. For example, if an attorney general came out and stated that I'm going to charge Trump with insurrection, and then Congress says, okay, that's enough, we wish to remove him from office. The majority said no. It's got to be a conviction.
Right.
And they were like, no, we don't believe it. We don't believe that needs to be debated and argued, but this isn't the time for that. But the states had no role. States have no role, even if it is an insurrection.
Yeah, that
I
know.
In
Under
getting
the Constitution, I know
getting
that, yes.
ready. But that's where the 9-0, that's where I'm reading it right there. But the states have no power. They all agreed to that.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't seem like there's any exception to the rule there at all.
Yeah. I'll go back and read the analysis I read earlier and see what the point they were trying to make on that. But the fact of the matter is that they do know that doing this with just a gavel, one judge in each state, actually it was two judges in Colorado, but the other, where one judge says, yep, it was insurrection in my opinion. The case isn't before you. You have no jurisdiction over the case. It's not legally binding. So imagine then and this is what we tried to line out for, you could open it up. Because yesterday we were focused on, okay, if a president were found to have committed something or an executive action by a president was overturned by the Supreme Court. It's happened a few times with Biden. It happened a number of times with Obama. Then you could go back and say, okay, they acted unconstitutionally, and we can remove them from the ballot. Had this been held up by the Supreme Court,
yes.
But I would argue too, actually, the comparison, you wouldn't even have to go that far. It wouldn't even have to be overturned by the Supreme Court. Only that the judge, because the judges here were making their own decision on how Trump acted, not whether he was found to have acted in that way legally, but they said they believed he did, and so that was enough for them. So that would open the door then to any judge saying, I think what he did here was unconstitutional, even if it never reached the Supreme Court. And so we're taking him off the ballot.
And just to explain to everybody, well, why? Because somebody might say, well, but this is only the Insurrection Act and applied to insurrection. Well, he wasn't charged or found guilty of committing insurrection.
Right.
So if the justices are saying, doesn't matter, we believe he did this, well, then the insurrection portion of it, according to these judges, doesn't matter. And that's why I think the majority came out and said, no, you've got to be convicted of it because, and then the liberal justices went, that's too far to say he should be, you're making law. And their point was, no, we're not making law. We're simply going through the due process that exists, that you can't remove a president unless he's convicted in court for insurrection.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only standard that you can hold. Otherwise, a rogue prosecutor could charge him with insurrection, and that would be enough for Congress to remove him, and that doesn't reach the level.
Right.
Because you've got to have due process under the law. They were saying, especially for something like this, if due process under the law goes away and Congress can just, if the Insurrection Act is used as impeachment, No. Now, we know that if you can remove a president if you can get enough votes in the House and Senate based on anything.
Yeah. Impeachment is a political process.
Right. But the Insurrection Act is different than impeachment, and they say, and so if you're going to use that in the Insurrection Act, obviously you've got to have due process in there. You just can't have, if one judge is saying Trump must be removed, what's the difference between an AG, for the one in Colorado, coming out and saying, for example, or not the AG because she's a state AG, but a federal AG coming out and stating, all right, we're going to charge Trump with insurrection, and that's enough to set off Congress to kick him out of office. And they're saying, no, there's got to be due process before you approach that with Congress, which means you must be convicted.
Right.
And that's where the left went, well, they're going too far. They're making law. No, they're not. They're simply saying there needs to be a due process. If you're going to go to the point of removing the leading presidential candidate or any presidential candidate.
Any person running for president.
Right. There's got to be due process in this whole insurrection thing. You just can't say he did it.
Right.
When nobody has charged him or convicted him of insurrection.
Right.
So, yeah, they made the right decision. And I think not going through hypotheticals, it was like, well, we're not going to adjudicate whether he or not committed insurrection. That's up to the criminal courts. It's not up to the Supreme Court to do a hypothetical on whether or not he committed insurrection. That's not our role.
Right.
And so I understood that portion of it. And when they say, okay, and that's what the Democrats use. They see, well, that's what Trump wanted. Well, of course, Trump may have wanted the Supreme Court to say that, but that's not a loss for Trump because they didn't say that. They simply said, we're not taking a stand either way. That's not our role.
Right.
It's up to the court systems to do that.
Well, and again,
and the federal court.
Just imagine the chaos. I don't think in the opinion, even in the 6-page opinion written by the 3 liberal justices, I don't think they even came close to outlining the entire Pandora's box this thing would have opened.
Oh,
it would have been a mess.
Any
judge who thought they did something unconstitutional, whether they actually were found to have done that or not, could have removed someone from a ballot.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We will continue with more of the analysis on the Supreme Court decision and a whole bunch more.
What a day.
I see AOC was at the movies and got harassed by, pro-terrorist
Yeah,
liberals.
you saw also the award shows at the Oscars coming up. They said they're going to have to really beef up enforcement because they believe pro-Hamas demonstrators are going to be there. Wow.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. Good morning. Thank you for being here. As always.
We want to be the first to wish you happy holidays. This is the only way we can be first is if we do it at the beginning of March. So there you go.
Well, St. Patrick's Day is coming up. Maybe that you saw green everywhere, and so you were thinking,
yes.
All right, it was the holiday.
No, I was thinking Christmas, but that's okay. It'll work for St. Patrick's Day too. So
it's like my old joke.
Yeah.
That there I was in October. I went into the liquor store, and there's green everywhere, and I went, "What are you people doing? I mean, why are you putting up Christmas decorations so early?" And they went, "Oh, this isn't for Christmas; it's for St. Patrick's Day."
We have to stock up because the Irish people drink a lot. It's only October.
I do have my St. Patrick's Day shirt, and it's like, "Hi, I'm Irish, and I'm an expert at an Irish exit."
Yeah,
which is where you're at a party, you just sort of disappear. And I relate to that because, well, I haven't been in a party in a couple of years, but when I used to go to parties,
yeah,
I would sort of like, can I get out of here?
According to my DNA results, I'm 55% Scotch. Part Irish. I'm about 20% Irish. Now, the thing about this, all of us Scottish people, is that, we're part Irish. We just like to complain about it. We also feel very guilty about it. And we have no reason to feel guilty. But we don't need a reason. We're Scottish. Aberdeen.
And all I'm thinking of is the Scottish Hall of Fame. From So I Married an Axe Murderer. Sheena Easton.
City Rollers.
Sheena Easton. That was the
Rod Stewart. The
Bay City Rollers.
Yeah.
Sheena Easton was on
Sheena Easton was on it. I forgot about that. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. They should have done a spinoff of just the family, just Mike Myers' family from, like they could do it now and it could be like his 20-year wedding anniversary, and maybe his son gets in the same predicament or something. I don't know. Is going to get married or something like that. But I mean, it was just so funny. And I was doing some research. But the part of Scotland we're from is like heavily conservative. I have no idea. I don't keep up with politics over there because I don't care. But it was interesting. And I thought, well, okay. Yeah. It would make sense.
I remember when I worked in Buffalo, and I went to a Irish party in Niagara Falls, a huge celebration. It was inside, thousands of people there, and we had some kind of broadcast location set up. Of course,
yeah.
Whenever I've worked anywhere, at any local station, it's like McNamara, St. Patrick's Day. We got to put you out somewhere.
Yeah, your name begins with MC.
Yeah, so you got to be out somewhere. And these guys, they were older. All these old guys came up to me and went, They were cursing at me because
yeah.
they were angry because I'm Irish and not a Northeastern liberal Democrat.
Yeah.
Never forget that.
It's funny because that wouldn't occur to me growing up in Texas. That it isn't something that would occur to me. Then again, it never occurred to me for the longest time that Austin, was completely liberal. I just thought they were weird, which it turns out they're both.
But that was an eye opener. Mm-hmm. No, I was not upset about the stereotyping. I just was surprised by the stereotyping. I had never, and I guess that's how we think. I view myself as an individual,
right?
Not as
imagine that.
I need to uphold the stereotype of a Northeastern Irish person being a liberal Democrat. What are you, nuts?
Now, if somebody's in a bar and they're buying you free drinks,
then I'm completely.
Then you're whatever they want you to be.
Whatever. Yeah.
It's going to be a good night.
I'm not at that
until you start debating them.
At that point, I'm not blue or red.
Exactly.
I'm definitely green
You're
at that
green.
point.
Yeah, all the way through. Right. Yeah.
I'm trying to think the last time I celebrated St. Patrick's Day, and I can't remember when it was.
I had a state trooper friend of mine, still have a state trooper friend, he's retired now, who told me St. Patrick's night was one of the worst nights for drunk driving. I don't know if that's still the case today. That was years ago. You have Uber. Come on. You got Lyft. You have friends.
What I always look at is when these celebrities get busted for DUI.
Yeah.
It's like, you got $100 million.
Yeah, you can hire any car.
Right, get a limo.
You can hire any car. It's funny because a friend of mine, Dave Sweetman, a great truck driver, was hauling. He told me he had hauled Shaq's car to New York. And I was like, you hauled his car to New York? From L.A. to New York. He's going to be in New York for a couple of weeks or whatever. Why not rent a car? He says, I'm sorry. You know who Shaq is. You know how tall he is. His car is all custom based on his size. So he can't rent a car. And I don't know how hard it would be for him to get in a limo. I think he could do it. I think he's probably done it a million times. But driving another car would probably be a problem. Didn't Shaq buy a house here in North Texas recently? He was setting up a business, actually, at one point.
Really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was setting up. He's got a restaurant business, a fast food business, and they were bringing.
Oh, there it is
here.
from last year.
Yeah, I think we briefly talked about it, but
he owns a home right near us.
Yeah.
in Carrollton.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
So
great area.
Yeah. Just a few miles from where we are.
Not my part of the neighborhood, but his part probably is. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you see all these celebrities that get busted over and over again. It's really sad, frankly. I mean, I get the idea of wanting to drive your sports car, your cool car, but you got to make a choice. Would you rather, drink or drive the cool car?
One of the problems, drinking when we get to our age is not the actual drinking.
No.
It's the after effects the next morning.
Yeah, I don't drink anymore, but when I did, for a little while, it was a thing. I guess I felt obligated to try whiskey. I had never, except for one time when I was really young. I drank Jack Daniels. It didn't go well. I was safe. Everything was fine. I wasn't driving. It was fine. It was just not good. And so I have no idea. My son was in the restaurant business for a long time, and he knows the difference between, scotch and whiskey and all these. I've read it a million times trying to figure it out, and I just realized I just don't care. You know what I mean? I don't. And so I sampled some whiskeys, and it was just so, the thing about that hard liquor, it stays on your taste buds forever. It's like 2 or 3 days. It just feels like, ugh. And you can't get it out of your taste buds. And I don't like that. And I don't mind a cold beer occasionally, but I just don't drink anymore. It slows me down too much. I have enough trouble keeping up.
Well,
so
my problem is not the actual drinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the after effect.
It's the after.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
and for example, if I had 2 glasses of wine, because I've always had a rule that, and this goes back years, that on, for example, a Saturday night, which is the day before we come in, 2 glasses of wine.
Right.
Well, this goes back to over a decade ago. I remember having 2 glasses of wine on a Saturday night. I just didn't want to, I just didn't want to drink anywhere near coming on the air. And it's got nothing to do with, well, I'm going to get caught with alcohol on my breath if I woke up on Sunday morning and had a glass of wine. It was the fact that
some talk show hosts we know, and we're not going to name names unless you pay us.
Oh, okay. I don't know who you're talking about, but
I can't tell you.
Okay.
Just joking.
It's just that if I had over 2 glasses of wine, there'd be a dullness the next day.
Yeah.
And the one thing I hate is coming in here ever. You're not hungover, but it's just 99.9% of your brain is working, and there's that little part that isn't working, and old age is already catching up on me, but it had to be over a decade ago where I just had 2 glasses of wine one night.
Yeah.
And the next day when I woke up, there was this tiny dullness in my head, and I hated it. I just hate that more than the pleasure of the feeling of 2 glasses of wine.
Well, that's the thing is that, like, if I have allergies, I know how to, for the most part, except for this time of year and in the fall, I can, for the most part, I can control them. It's like there's a remedy. There's not a remedy for that dullness except for time.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's frustrating to me, and I have a pretty high tolerance when it comes to alcohol. But I just don't, it's the next day it's like, I need to get things done. I have things I have to do. And so it's, I never say never, but it's been a while. Been a long time, actually.
Well,
I've had any.
Hollywood, the left, and some of them were Hollywood, went absolutely insane yesterday. I mean, Keith Olbermann, my God.
Yeah.
What a nutcase he is.
No, this is what I wonder about the election, because imagine, and again, we're not making predictions here, but imagine it's a clear victory, no questions asked. Trump wins it solidly. The left is going to go bonkers. And I don't know. I mean, things like, a Keith Olbermann and their reaction, it's laughable. But who knows what the left is capable of doing, And also part of me wonders, okay, are we beyond that? Is it now the hatred for Trump? It's very much alive on the far left. Trump derangement syndrome is very much alive. These cases of taking him off the ballot, that's part of that. The other cases against him, that's part of that. But for the rank and file, people who would be motivated, to protest or whatever, I wonder to what extent it's alive compared to 2020 or even 2016. Trump supporters clearly in January of 21 were very motivated to protest, and it got out of hand. But I wonder now how motivated the rank and file is on either side, but specifically the left, if it is to be the case that Trump wins with a clear margin.
Well, what I get, because Olbermann called for the Supreme Court to be dissolved.
Yeah, of course.
And so you have no courts.
Yeah, get rid of it because they didn't do what I wanted.
Right, get rid of the separation of powers.
Yeah.
These people, I'm telling you, they're insane.
He can't make a legal case. So just throw it out.
But when you look here, because it's important that we read the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, so people understand how clear this is. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president. That's an elector, not the president or vice president. Or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or any state who have previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid and comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may vote, but Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such a disability. So it's absolutely clear where the power lies. But Congress may vote by 2/3 of each house to remove such a disability.
Right.
It's absolutely clear. You couldn't make it clearer. And that's why Democrats who say the Republicans are against a democracy and Trump is against a democracy, they are blatant against being against a, quote, democracy. Constitution of Republic. And so it's important to understand that there is a certain amount of insanity and a certain amount of gaslighting even. Well, no, it's obvious. No, Trump can't run. The state can do it. No, it's not. And they attempt to intimidate you. And as you and I have said, it's got nothing to do with Trump. It's got to do with the Constitution.
No, this is about...
If it was anybody, I'd say the same thing.
It's about the Constitution. It's about due process.
Right. And so when you have, let me just see, do I have, let me just see what I've got here to play. I thought I had something. Okay, here we go. All right. This is just some of the stuff. And thanks, Newsbusters, for putting this together. Just some of the things you heard on the mainstream media yesterday. Here we go.
We've learned that it was a 9-0 decision ruling that Donald Trump can be on the ballot in Colorado and other states.
I'm not confident that that will produce a result that's good for American democracy.
This is actually what I had been concerned about. I had been concerned that should it go to the Supreme Court, they would rule this way.
I'd laugh if it weren't so sad.
My next guest says Donald Trump is still an oath-breaking insurrectionist. Do you have confidence in the Supreme Court? Do you think this court is partisan?
The court itself may have overstepped.
The court went way further than it needed to go.
Our colleague Melissa Murray has called this Supreme Court the YOLO court.
The criticism of the court is that they're playing interference.
Not since Bush v. Gore have we seen a court that's had this many opportunities to interfere in the election.
The headline here is that this is a unanimous ruling, but if you scratch the surface just a little...
This is a 5-4 ruling on part of it.
This is actually a 5-4 decision.
It's 5-4.
Trump will take this, spin it, spread the misinformation, disinformation on it, so it's a win for them.
He's on the ballot, and voters will vote, and he looks like he's headed to become the Republican nominee for president.
You can't save a people from themselves. If they're determined to realize...
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, it was 5-4, Gary. It was 5-4.
It was the hypothetical was 5-4, but it was 9-0.
It was
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Surviving and thriving as an owner-operator has just as much to do with managing costs as it does with generating revenue. Like the chief financial officer of any company, you have to be concerned about rising costs, especially without increases in revenue. Trying to reduce costs, let alone make sense of them, can be a complicated task. Understanding basic principles of operating costs can save you thousands of dollars a year. A penny saved could be $1,000 earned. Saving just 1 penny per mile over 100,000 miles driven annually will deliver $1,000 to the bottom line at the end of the year. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. The thing that I liked was Keith Olbermann The Supreme Court has betrayed democracy. Its members, including Kagan, Jackson, and Sotomayor, have proved themselves inept at reading comprehension. Well, this is really interesting. Yeah. The white, privileged male Democrat, liberal, is saying that the women and minority women cannot read.
Man, how dare you?
Yes, that's
bigoted.
Olbermann.
Yep.
Has he been out of his basement in a while?
I don't think so. Mom!
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. You can listen when and where you want, in case you can't listen live overnight.
And thank you.
Yes, as always. Well, it was interesting yesterday. All over social media, you had the left. Here's some of the conclusions. As we saw the responses to Olbermann were just great. Mostly were negative. I mean, just pounding on him.
Yep.
But the left was up in arms, as we said. Keith Olbermann, get rid of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court needs to go. Forget about packing the Supreme Court.
Right.
Because now people like Keith Olbermann on the left believe that liberal women and liberal women of color cannot read and comprehend things.
Right. That's what he's saying.
No. What I was expecting yesterday but didn't see was somebody on the left say, well, of course Jackson couldn't get it right. She can't even define what a woman is. But I didn't see that from the left. I was expecting that.
Wow.
How can she decide in these cases when she can't even decide what a woman is?
Right.
But what you saw was dissolve the Supreme Court, pack the Supreme Court. Well, with how many? If you're going to pack them, how many? I mean, this was 9-0. You're going to 9,000 people on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So you had that. You had get rid of the Electoral College.
Yeah.
Get rid of the Senate. All the
Right.
stuff that the left wants to promote. And they don't bring it up often, but they brought it up yesterday.
Well,
it's time to get rid of the Senate. It's time to get rid of the Electoral College. It's time to pack the court. It's time to get rid of the court. It's time to get rid of the separation of powers.
Who was it that said during the Trump years, it had to have been a Joy Reid or somebody over at MSNBC, do we really need a president or something like this? Because Congress has to declare war, and the Pentagon can decide on, do we really need this figurehead? I think they were it was a discussion. It wasn't the full-on, let's do away with the office of the presidency. But, of course, if it meant getting rid of Trump, they would basically, anytime they lose.
Well, let's just break it down.
The Electoral College is gone. The Senate's gone. The Supreme Court's gone.
Let's just break it down here from what we've seen. Now, this court case was a simple court case.
Yeah.
The rest is a hypothetical as to what does federal enforcement mean? From what I can see, the conservatives on the Supreme Court, the majority, said, okay, if you're going to remove a president, Congress is going to do it, which you need 2/3 of each Congress. Mm-hmm. Well, then what decides being an insurrectionist? Well, if you're going to use the 14th Amendment to do it, well, then to judge the president of an insurrection, well, what is in the law right now for insurrection? Okay, here's the law. You need to be convicted of that. Then you're an insurrectionist. That's by due process how you prove somebody is an insurrectionist if you're going to use the 14th Amendment to remove him from office. Now, that's separate from impeachment.
Right.
And removal from office. They're talking about specifically the 14th Amendment, which seems logical. How do you decide if a president is an insurrectionist? Is it up to a Secretary of State? And I apologize before I called the Secretary of State Attorney General of Colorado.
Right.
But should a state be able to do it? based on nobody's been charged, nobody's been convicted. What is the standard of due process necessary if you're going to use the 14th Amendment? And you would think it would be you're convicted.
Yep.
Because otherwise, if you're not convicted, then one attorney general, or excuse me, not attorney general, one federal attorney could file insurrection charges against you, never bring it to court, and Congress could vote on that. That would be the standard. And the Supreme Court saying, well, this is the standard. The liberals were saying, well, you didn't need to set that standard. But what you got yesterday was absolutely clear the states have no role in it. If you read it, it's as clear as the Second Amendment or the First Amendment. Oh, wait a minute. They reject all of that, too.
Yeah.
But,
go with the Fifth.
But what I find...
they like that one.
The Fifth, okay. What I find interesting is that those... it's the same as racism. The left. You're on the right, you're a racist, you're a racist, you're a racist, you're a racist. Excuse me, you're the ones that bluntly follow identity politics. You're the ones that bluntly support critical race theory, which basically designates and judges people by the groups they're in and not individuals. And you dare call me a racist? Well, let's look about who wishes to defend democracy. Who are the ones that wish to, because it's the only place it comes from is liberalism, getting rid of the Senate, getting rid of the Electoral College, packing the Supreme Court when they don't like the decision, not believing. There was another article the other day. Who was it? I got to find it. Was it a liberal judge, whatever, coming out and saying the First Amendment goes too far? The liberals do not believe in freedom of speech. They don't believe in freedom of religion. They don't believe in the Second Amendment. They don't believe in the Electoral College. They don't believe in the Senate.
Right.
Because they believe that everything should be proportioned by population. Well, only if it goes in their direction, if they believe it goes in their direction. But the only party that wishes separation of powers. They don't believe in the separation of powers. So all of these things that are the building blocks and the basis, the ultimate law of the United States, they don't believe in. And the right is the one that wishes to get rid of democracy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, due process, all of it. I mean, throw everything out. They believe a judge should be able to just look and say, hey, I believe this was insurrection. I believe this person should not be on the ballot. This person isn't qualified. Because even stepping away from the constitutional items, if you were to say, well, if the Supreme Court had upheld the decision in Colorado, we extrapolated it out. First, you could look at it and say, all right, the Supreme Court overturns an executive move. They find it unconstitutional. And so then any judge in any state could say that president is no longer eligible, and they could make that decision. Boom, you're off the ballot. And then we said, well, you don't have to go that far. As a judge, if I decide I believe it's unconstitutional, whether it was actually found to be unconstitutional, boom, you're off the ballot. Well, then go into just qualifications in general. List all of the qualifications for a president. Well, I don't think that they're qualified or that they're not in the right state. I mean, this is exactly where they went with Trump. Well, there's something wrong with the guy. There's something wrong with the guy. There's something wrong with the guy. Then you point at the clear cognitive issues with the current president, and they lose their mind. The point being is that you could give that judge or any judge in any state that kind of power. Tell me where they wouldn't take it. Not just presidential candidates. It would be unrelenting, and it would be absolute chaos. You could just remove anybody from a ballot, from any office. Mm-hmm. Boom. Who's with the opposing party? Let's go in and review all of them.
But when you look at liberalism today, they're the worst of what we have always viewed as the complete opposite of what we want in this constitutional republic. If you wish to put it under the umbrella of democracy, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, with their identity politics, they judge people by groups and not individuals. Racism, we as a nation thought that we defeated. We haven't. So when the left or Democrats say that racism is systemic in the United States, they're absolutely right. But they're pointing at the wrong people. Where racism is systemic and institutionalized is right the core of the Democratic Party and their principles with identity politics. And critical race theory is the example of where identity politics have taken us. Don't ask me. You can ask Tim Ryan, who ran against Nancy Pelosi a few years ago for Speaker of the House. That's why he ran. He got a third of the vote. Why? We need to stop the identity politics, which is judging people by groups and not as individuals. Then you look at who wishes to weaken freedom of speech? Liberals. Who wishes to weaken freedom of religion? Liberals. Who wishes to get rid of the Second Amendment? Mm-hmm. Liberals. Who wants to get rid of the Senate? That only comes from liberals. Who wants to get rid of the Electoral College? Liberals.
Right.
You know, who wishes to have judges be activists and make law instead of interpret law? Liberals.
Right.
All the way across the board, and they're the ones speaking and dare to come out and say, I mean, this is where the gaslighting comes in. What do you mean? We're for democracy, where they are the ones that wish to dismantle key portions of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights.
Yep.
And we just don't say it. We point out. They'll say the Republicans don't want democracy. Based on what?
Based on what?
Based on what? Be specific in the law.
Well, look,
what
part of in 2021, in January 2021, they acted like this kind of challenge, to election results was totally unheard of, had never happened before, when they had just done it 4 years before.
Yeah, constantly.
He wasn't legitimately elected. They said that, in fact, throughout his presidency. Nancy Pelosi, in early 2017, made that case. Because Hillary's plan didn't work. The collusion didn't work. The collusion hoax didn't work. That's the problem. And by the way, she was actually colluding. She was the one doing the colluding. But their plan didn't work. Every time their plan fails, I say it, I've said it several times. They believed from the point that Obama became president, they had won forever. I think they looked at the Supreme Court, probably the future of the Supreme Court, because if they felt that they had won the White House forever, then they feel like they're going to have court appointments forever. And when Trump won, and she didn't in 2016, they lost their ever-loving mind. And I think part of it was because here's a guy who's not an insider. He comes in, and he's going to see things for the first time, and he's going to go, wow, what were they doing here? What have we learned since Trump became president? What have we learned about the FBI, the upper echelon, the brass, and the way they work at the Justice Department, and what they're doing still today?
All not good.
It is horrible.
You and I remember, I think it was in the spring when it looked like Trump was going to win, or maybe it was the early summer when he had the nomination. Remember the article that said, from our analysis, Republicans will never, ever again win a presidency.
Yeah, right.
Because of the demographic shift.
Because there was no way he was going to win.
And there's no way that their policies would alienate, they thought, anybody on the left, especially... Yeah. But what they were looking at that time, though, was they figured they had Hispanics, and the growing Hispanic population in the United States would forever mean the Republicans couldn't win. And that's not the case. You see the demographics, now it's extremely close, 50-50 on Hispanics, Republicans versus Democrats right now. They didn't expect that. They expected that their policies, that we've always said, were hypothetical and abstract. but sounded good. We'll give you, we'll give you, we'll give you, we'll give you. You get this, you get this, you get this, you get this.
Yeah.
You're a victim of the oppressors out there. The oppressors are victims. And finally, reality hit, and reality's hitting now across the board.
Mm-hmm.
As we've stated, the Democrats' biggest problem is not the Republicans. It's reality.
It is.
Reality has hit them squarely in the face.
Yep.
It's like,
repeatedly.
These policies actually don't work.
Right.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the top of the hour, more on the Supreme Court decision, plus the headline here, Fonnie Willis warned Nathan Wade's lawyer to stay quiet about affair, court filing claims, a new witness. Now, they'd actually talked about this on in closing arguments, saying that they had another witness. And this is in closing arguments, and they were discussing whether, okay, we'll have that discussion later on. Make your closing arguments now.
Right.
Because a witness wasn't there to testify at that moment or whatever.
Right.
Or it had just been brought to the court.
Yeah.
And so it had just been brought to the court.
Right.
And so that's what it is. So we'll get to that. This is a really interesting story. New York's net zero policies leave its grid struggling to support new and expanded industries, that these states that are going no natural gas, solar and wind. At the same time, we're giving out tremendous amount of incentives and taxpayer subsidies for industries that are saying, no, we can't do it because you're not going to have the electricity we need.
We need cheap and plentiful and reliable energy.
Again, reality.
Exactly.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. How's everybody doing?
How's it going?
Good to have you aboard.
It is.
I will say one thing. I saw this story yesterday, and I think the estate of Sinead O'Conner does make a point.
Okay. All right.
When they say they don't want at any Trump rally for the campaign to be playing any Sinead O'Conner music. Now, the only thing that we might differ is Trump should have led the charge and said, no Sinead O'Conner in any.
He should be suing to prevent the music from being played.
Yes.
I mean, is he really showing up and coming to the stage and they're playing Nothing Compares to You? I don't think.
Oh, no. Come on. No.
Is that happening?
No. I don't want to hear that.
Because somebody hacked into the sound system if that is happening. I don't see Trump playing Nothing Compares. I could be wrong, though. I mean, I don't know.
I'd like to hear, Dog Eat Dog from Nugent.
There you go. Wango Zitango. There you go. The Wango Zitango.
When in doubt, I run for president.
Exactly. Got me a rock and roll band.
It's a free-for-all.
Yeah. Oh.
Sinead, come on.
Stranglehold.
Yeah, Stranglehold. Right, exactly.
There you go. Come on.
Stranglehold.
Oh, my gosh. No.
Nothing compares to you from Sinead O'Conner.
No.
I understand the lyric part of it, but the music part of it, no.
No. Written by Prince. The lyrics, I guess the whole thing, the music and the lyrics. So here's the thing. Stranglehold. Get this. the opening to Stranglehold is playing. There's a ramp like the WWE. Ooh, yeah. And then the entire rally is just, screaming because that's a great song, number one. And number two, they're at a Trump rally. And so he comes out, there's the dry ice, the fog, the whole thing, the lights. Does he, by the way, he should do his rallies in a ring like the WWE in the center with a microphone, a pull-down microphone. Oh, my gosh. I probably would get fired first day from the campaign, but those would be my ideas.
Well, wait a minute. Your idea can't be worse than playing Sinead O'Conner.
Are they really playing Sinead O'Conner?
Apparently. The estate wants them to stop.
I mean, is somebody playing... Here's my question. Somebody just put on their iTunes or whatever and let it roll while they're waiting for him to come out? Because that's... If they're playing Nothing Compares to You... While I appreciate the sentiment of the title of the song...
You can understand the lyrics that a campaign might say, well, that'd be something good, but not that song.
Right.
I'd rather hear, I'll tumble for you, Boy George.
Right. At least it's a song of sacrifice, I think. Is it? I'll tumble for you? I don't even know what tumble means in that case.
But I don't know why.
I should be careful.
But that song came in my mind, and I'm sitting there when you said he should be in a ring like WWE, and there's all this smoke, and I'll tumble for you, and Trump comes out like, just like dancing a little bit.
Well, when he was doing the whole Macho Man thing, the Village People song, is the Macho Man, and he was on the stage and he was dancing, and then there's like a million GIFs that were made from that. Trump doesn't care. It's like,
stay away from 80s new wave.
Yeah, right.
Stay away from 80s music.
Well, Flock of Seagulls, I ran, and I won. Huh? There's that. Yeah.
And that'd be okay since buddy of mine plays guitar for them.
Yeah.
Gordon Depp.
Exactly.
From the Canadian band The Spoons.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because The Spoons is a 10 times better band than Flock of Seagulls will ever be, even though Iran is that guitar riff is great. I mean, that
actually is a good guitar riff.
There's a great hook in there that pulls you right in.
Yeah.
But it's so weird seeing Gordon Depp play it instead of, I can't think of the guy. Remember the little guy with the glasses? Paul, I think his name is. Mm-hmm. The original guitarist isn't with them anymore. But you expect to see him do it, but it's Gordon Depp, who's a great guitarist. Great guitarist.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I just, I ran and I won. I like that.
I ran and I won. Well, 80s music, Journey, Jonathan Cain of Journey.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
He supported Trump. I haven't seen him out this year yet, but I know he supported Trump in the past.
Okay, and he played for the Babies, right?
He also played for the Babies.
So what song did the Babies have that they might be able to use?
Back on My Feet Again.
Yeah. That'd be running again. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
The Babies.
Yep.
Jonathan.
I'm not sure if Jonathan wrote that song in particular, but that would work from the Babies. But Don't Stop Believin' from Journey. And he wrote all their 80s hits. Now,
did he?
I think Neil Sean has a lot of the writing credits, with other members of the band. But yeah, but Jonathan Cain's the creative driving force of all of their massive hits.
I did see the.
Not to put Neil Sean down, by the way. Neil Sean, obviously,
it was on. It was on in the background the other day, but it's on YouTube, and I just went to it, and it was in the background. I was doing show prep, so I was watching part of it, and it's the Skinnerd documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And goes back to how they first started and everything else, and I still one of my favorite stories of all time about Leonard Skinnerd.
Yeah,
is the Ed King. That how he found his way to Leonard Skinnerd as one of the guitarists.
Yeah,
and he was incense and peppermints.
Right.
That he was in Strawberry Alarm Clock.
Right.
But
yeah.
Strawberry Alarm Clock, and I guess it was Skinner before they were Skinner. I forgot what it was called, 1% or something. They used to play together, and Ed King told Ronnie Van Zant, "Hey, you ever looking for a guitarist? Let me know."
Yeah.
And so Ed
then
King
eventually,
and if you see, for example, I think it's on the backside of Pronounced Leonard Skinner. When you see they're outside the shack where they produced everything, and the whole band's on one side and Ed King's on the other.
Yeah,
because they're all from the South. He's from California. It's like that. He goes, I really didn't fit in. But the interesting thing was, how they, Ronnie Van Zant especially, and all of them got into drugs and everything else. When they played in there, Ed King said there was never any drugs ever until they became popular.
Yeah.
Nothing. It was all business, But
you hear that too many times.
But they had the one guy. I don't know who he is. He's some reviewer, and he's talking about the old Skinner verses and talked about Saturday Night Special with Ronnie Van Zant. That was an anti-gun song.
Yeah, right.
That basically he believed that that Ronnie Van Zant was more liberal, and he goes, not the right wing Rush Limbaugh, Leonard Skinner of today.
Yeah, right. Right.
You could tell he was like bitter about it. Like a right wing Skinner of today. And,
right.
But now, you see that? What's it? The drummer of Kansas. I just saw this the other day. The drummer of Kansas had a heart attack. So now they are a complete cover tribute band. There's no original member.
No original member.
So if Kansas is playing this summer, I love Kansas. It's not Kansas. There's nobody left in the band.
Yeah.
Now,
technically, I guess they could go on for a while.
Right. And same with Skinner. Nobody left in the.
Yeah. Ricky Medlock's saying they have a number of songs that haven't been finished yet, so they could put out new albums. I don't know if they will.
Yeah. But no original member is left there.
Right.
Now.
Right.
Of Skinner. So if I can just come see Kansas opening for Skinner or Skinner opening for Kansas. And it's like, well, not really. Nobody's left.
Right.
But I didn't know this. It's so many, what was it? What do you call the group of session musicians in the 60s? What were they called?
The
Tommy Tedesco was in it. Glenn Campbell was in it. I just can't think of it.
Not the Sound Machine. What were they called?
I just can't think of it.
But
they talked about how they would the record companies come to them, they'd produce songs, and they not the Cutting Crew.
No, you're close though. What was it? You're close. Yeah.
Let me just put Tommy Tedesco's name in because he's been recorded on more songs.
Wrecking Crew?
The Wrecking Crew. Yes, they're the Wrecking Crew. And it's funny because like Tommy Tedesco is not listed in one of the top guitarists. Glenn Campbell talked one time where they were in the studios and the Tommy Tedesco's sitting there and it's like, look, we need a banjo, we need some other kind of sound, and he just leans down. You can't see what he's playing, and Glenn Campbell can. Every sound he made of every instrument they wanted came from his guitar.
Yeah.
And Glenn Campbell saying it was unbelievable.
Right. He got the sound out of it. Yeah.
He could get the sound out of anything out of a guitar. He goes,
I had a friend that could do that, and I thought to myself then, when I was young, you could make the living you could make from doing just that. He could get anything out of a guitar.
But so many of these 60s bands, the record companies would go to the Wrecking Crew, say, produce this song.
Yeah.
They produce a song, then they go, okay, let's find 4 guys. They find 4 guys. Okay, you're this band. This is your music that you're playing.
Right.
So there was no band that started.
Right.
They just found, 4 people that could play it live, but the actual recording was all the Wrecking Crew. Everything was a Wrecking Crew.
You think of Jimmy Page's career as a session musician.
Yeah.
And how many things he was on and how he kind of worked and long before, he made it big and then ended up, eventually in Led Zeppelin.
But talking about music, no Trump campaign should ever. We disagree with
Sinead
the Trump
O'Conner,
campaign for having Sinead O'Conner.
Nugent. Come on, Nugent. It's got to be Nugent. Stranglehold. Seriously, it's got to be Nugent. It's got to be.
Yeah, but I'm the political consultant. We need songs that will attract suburban women.
Nugent. Sorry. I can't let it go. I can't let it go.
And what would that be? So we're going to play Lizzo?
Yeah, I don't know what you do. Adele. Don't play Adele. Don't play Adele.
Michael Bublé.
Bublé doing covers of Nugent. Stranglehold, baby. Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't think so. Don't ever do that, Bublé. He's got a great sense of humor. Don't ever do that.
Rick Astley? Just try.
Well, you got like 2 or 3 songs, but I don't know. Is that the whole point of the Sinead O'Conner? We need to attract
suburban
women. Sinead O'Conner rates right up there. Okay. How about just some patriotic music in the background? Some instrumental patriotic music.
I'll go for Stars and Stripes Forever every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's
great. Yeah. That's a great point, though.
I mean, to me, it wouldn't be too complicated. Come on.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. We got a call. Call it on the Babylon Bee here because their lead headline, would actually be a reality to how Democrats are thinking. In major blow to democracy, Supreme Court rules voters can vote for favorite candidate.
I mean, that's just blunt. That's straight. That's a straight headline. Honestly, that's just a straight headline.
In a stunning unanimous decision. Normally, I just read the headlines. I had to read a little bit more into the article. In a stunning unanimous decision that dealt a shocking blow to democracy, the United States Supreme Court affirmed that people can vote for the candidate they want.
Yeah.
The landmark ruling issued just as the 2024 presidential election prepared to ramp up presents a grave new threat to American freedom as all 9 justices declared that voters can, in defiance of what the ruling authorities may want, select their preferred candidate. We've never seen democracy in such danger, said Karine Jean-Pierre. Today's ruling from the Supreme Court now adds credence to the belief held by fringe extremists that they are allowed to select the candidate they want in an election. This is terrifying. The state of Colorado had boldly and bravely attempted to preserve democracy by removing former President Donald Trump from the ballot, but the nation's highest court ended all hopes that freedom and liberty would reign. We don't have a country anymore, said a despondent Rachel Maddow. You mean to tell me that in a democracy, people can just go out and vote for whoever they want?
What?
Why don't you just burn the Constitution already? No, seriously, can we burn it? At publishing time, Democrats at all levels of government across the country decried the ruling as an end of the America as we know it, ushering in a new and dangerous era of people getting to vote for the candidate they want to be in charge.
Love it.
Wow.
Love it.
Wow. That's exactly what we're dealing with. The other one that I liked was cast of The View unanimously overturns SCOTUS decision.
Unanimously. I love it.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
That's just greatness.
But this is, I mean, it's the job. Look, observational humor is their work at the Babylon Bee. But there's so much to observe. Man, I want to sit around the room. I just want to sit in there while they're creating, while they're, writing.
Well, let me play this audio cut because you and I listened to it in our pre-show meeting, but it does show you how, what the Democrats are doing in pop culture, how absurd it is.
Right.
And this is Dana Carvey. Just talking about Biden and the border. And this is great because, Dana Carvey, His politics, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know where he stands, but the observation is pretty hilarious. Here we go.
I started with Biden because the border's all the rage now. Everyone's crazy for the border. So I did Biden 3 years ago, and he's at a press conference. Mr. President, do you have any idea how you're going to handle the crisis at the border? And Biden's like, first of all, let's get our facts straight. There's no crisis at the border. Come on. And he goes, how do you know, sir? He goes, because it says so on the piece of paper. Come on. It says on the paper. Says the paper right there. And then recently, everyone wants to close the border. Everyone's screaming. Biden's up there. I'll close the border harder than anyone's ever closed the border. Because I know how to close borders. Come on, Jack. And the press is like, but last time, get your facts straight. I'll beat you the hell out of you. Will you dog paste phone his shoulder? Come on. Let's do some push-ups. I'll close the border like nobody's ever closed it. The border patrol, the border can't believe it's not butter.
I love Dana Carvey's version of Biden more than anybody else's. It's simply over the top, the best.
Wow.
I love that.
But it just shows you in popular culture that you're picking it up. It's become humorous. Everybody knows he doesn't wish to close the border.
It's just laughable.
And so that's, and that's part of, again, when something is, we talk about something being so self-evident and gaslighting. Mm-hmm. And when you really think about it, the Democrats are gaslighting big time on the 14th Amendment.
Oh, yeah.
They're gaslighting. Yeah. They're pretending it's something that it isn't, and then criticizing you as being against democracy, which is gaslighting.
Yep.
You're against democracy if you're actually for what the 14th Amendment says.
Yep.
You are against democracy.
Yep.
Wow.
It's just, and just to line it out the way Dana Carvey did.
It's just great.
Just great.
Can't believe it's not butter.
About to trigger somebody right now. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley on Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I went to Mediaite, which is the website that looks for conservative bias or promotes liberal bias. You know what their top story is? George Conway fumes at unanimous Supreme Court decision favoring Trump. Shoddy legal work all around.
George Conway.
I'm just thinking,
who woke him up?
I don't. Where's he been hiding?
I don't know.
Is he in Olbermann's basement?
Yeah.
Does Olbermann realize the joy that he gives us with his insane rage?
Probably not.
That's based on no logic.
Yeah.
Just pure emotional rage. You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of the way I used to be when I could not hit a ball with a stick. And I had and this is when I belonged to a golf club, and I got myself down to a 7 handicap.
Okay.
And that means you can break 80. I was able to hit 78, 79, 80 all the time. And, that's really good golf because most people don't get there.
All right.
But, of course, when you get there, you want to get better, and I couldn't get better.
Yeah.
And, I had rage. It really was a time. I had to quit golf. I quit for a while.
Yeah.
Because I had such incredible rage. I'm not competitive. Are you competitive with other people? Just watch me how competitive I am with myself. I couldn't get better, and I've always stated, and it always gets a laugh, but I say I had the rage of a serial killer directed at myself because I couldn't hit a ball with the stick. And I remember the anger was so great that in the middle of that rage and anger, I would think to myself, is something mentally wrong with me? Seriously.
Do I need to just calm down, maybe?
But, he's in that. But it was only for that moment. And then 10 minutes later, I'm fine. But then I learned I had to let that go. It's like you're never going to get better if you're not in control of, your emotions. But like somebody like Olbermann's, he's like that 24/7. I mean, all you see is his rage, and it makes no sense.
The resistance.
Remember the resistance. Shut up.
Yeah, nobody's listening, Keith. I mean, Eric and Gary are, but just for fun.
For fun, entertainment purposes only.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, that is the whole purpose.
And another thing that I saw yesterday, which made me just smile a little bit. You see the protesters following AOC out of the movie theater?
Yeah. What did we say, though? When you have, when your entire mission statement, which has been on the left, long before she was in office, but when your entire mission statement relies on creating more and more victims, and therefore, as you create the subgroups with more victims, you have more oppressors. Eventually, you're the oppressor. Boom.
Yep.
And I said specifically,
this is coming from the left. These aren't right-wing protesters.
I said specifically,
these are terrorist supporters.
Exactly.
These are Hamas terrorist supporters who say you're not agreeing with us enough.
Because I don't know, a few times we were talking about whatever she had been commenting on and moving on and suggesting, and I specifically several times said, that means you, AOC. At some point, you are the oppressor.
Mm-hmm.
You stick around long enough, that's just the way it's going to work. And you're helping to design this.
Especially when you're boisterous on the left, that you promote all the leftist positions,
right?
And you're boisterous on it. You're the first one that the left is going to go after.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, you got to agree with us now. Oh, you've taken these positions. Now you've got to agree. You've had the anti-Israel position. You need to go further like we have. We are now pro-terrorism. And if you're not pro-terrorism and saying that Israel is committing the genocide here, well, then we're going to follow you and we're going to harass you all the time.
Right.
That's what happens when you get involved with crazy people.
Yep.
When you start having opinions that radicals and crazy people endorse.
Yep. And here we are.
Oh, you see the one that came out, the climate change person with Manchin the other day? Did you see that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if it was a security guard for Manchin or whoever it was, but pushed this guy back. He's just cursing at Manchin. Manchin gets up because he was F this to him and calling him F stuff and whatever, and Manchin gets up. In those situations, because I've had some of those things happen to me, I just smile. And I would look and go, well, how does it feel to be a nutcase? Hi, nutcase. Hi. Smile and wave. Hi, nutcase. Hi, terrorist supporter. So you're a terrorism supporter, are you? That's how you respond.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
A Manchin got up and it's like, no, they want the altercation.
Oh, they are looking for it.
Yeah, you don't give it to them. You smile,
Nope.
you turn and you go,
Nope.
how does it feel to support terror? Are you a baby? Do you support baby killing too?
Right.
Is that what you support?
Right.
That's what I would tell these people. Oh, are you a supporter of raping while murdering?
Right.
Are you into that too?
Right.
Just throw it right back in their face.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any fear on them.
Yeah, turn it. She can't. In fact, she wouldn't answer. In fact, she goes, I've said what, because they were saying, you haven't said specifically it's a genocide. Yes, and then finally she starts saying, yes, I did. Yes, I did. They go, well, you're not saying it now. You're just saying, yes, you did. You're not saying that it is a genocide. I've said it before, but you need to say it again now. I'm like, oh, my God, this is great.
Silence is violence, remember?
Yep.
Oh, man, when you help create a monster and it comes back at you. Gotta hate that. That's the left, though. It was always going to be that. And if you are not going to follow the radical left, they're going to turn around and they're going to call you out. They're going to come at you. So at one point you belong to the radical left, and at some point you're not radical or left enough for them, and they're coming at you.
And here's where it is. I mean, the story relates right to it. Democratic Socialist of America tells members to oppose Biden, accuse Israel of genocide.
Yep.
The Democratic Socialists of America on Sunday encourages members to vote uncommitted in an election cycle's remaining Democrat primaries. These are absolute. Understand that the Democratic Socialists of America are pro-terrorists.
Right.
They're pro the killing of innocent people.
Right. Yep. Yep. And
until this administration ends its support of Israel's genocide in Gaza and delivers a permanent, lasting ceasefire, Joe Biden will bear the responsibility for another Trump presidency. They wrote on X. The group says it has more than 92,000 members, all pro-terrorism, by the way, and has organized numerous anti-Israel protests since Hamas's October 7th attack on the Jewish state. And that's what they're pounding on AOC about. Same people.
Right.
The same insane people. Well, you better watch who you go to bed with.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, again, we said it right after October 7th. There's the radicals. Yep. There's everybody else on the other side.
Right.
That's just it is just there is no gray area here. And by the way, they're the ones making sure there's no gray area.
You better watch out because you got to watch out, AOC, who you go to bed with. Otherwise, you'll get STDs.
Exactly.
S standing for socialists.
Mm-hmm.
Socialist transmitted diseases.
I was going to say socialist Trump derangement, but okay.
That's good. No, that's good. Let's put that in the side pocket here. We'll hold on to that one for future reference.
Is that a TDS STD?
That's a TDS
Socialist
STD.
Trump derangement.
A TDS STD. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's very real. And it was going to happen. Whatever the next radical step was going to be.
Right.
And we're pro-Hamas. Right. We're pro-terrorists.
And now to be a good Democrat, you need to be pro-terrorists.
I think Democrat was closer. Freudian slip. That's you but you can't not be. You can't be neutral. You can't even not say it.
Yes.
But I did say it. You're not saying it now.
Right. You've got to be pro-terrorist.
How dare you?
You need to be pro-rape, pro-murder, pro-terrorist.
Right.
Otherwise, you're not a true Democrat.
Exactly.
But I am. I said it. You're not saying it now. I said it before. You need to say it again. So you can even say it, and if you don't say it when they wish you to.
Right. You're not wearing the T-shirt. I mean, how far does it go?
Who don't wear the ribbon?
You're not wearing the ribbon. You're not wearing the pro-Hamas ribbon. You don't like the ribbon? I mean, this is where they are. They absolutely, you must pledge allegiance to the radicals. If you're on the left, it's either that or you're not on the left anymore.
And by the way, as we said, there is no middle ground here with what happened on October 7th. There is no middle ground.
Nope.
Either you're right or you're a radical pro-terrorist.
Yep.
That's where it stands right now. There is no middle ground.
It's one of the two.
Yep. And basically, I'm paraphrasing the great Democrat John Fetterman on that one.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he was, I think, right out of the gate. It wasn't long.
But the fact is, are they harassing him?
They probably are protesting somewhere.
But who they first go after is the people that they think that they can flip.
The ones that they think should be leading the charge for them.
Right.
This is the thing. You can't possibly agree with us because you're not leading us right now. If you're not leading us in this charge, then something's wrong with you.
Oh, she was so frustrated, because they're out of the movie theater, down the escalator, out the door, and she starts screaming. And I can't play it because there's profanity in it, but this is F up.
Yeah. Well, well. You build it, and this is it.
Always good. Here's something, a Red Eye Radio reminder. If you're pro-terrorists, that's the opinion you hold, it's going to get you in trouble.
Right.
Try not to be pro-terrorist.
Try not to do that.
Yes. Try not to be pro-murder, pro-rape while murdering.
Right.
You know, try not to promote a genocide as being good and then try to reverse it and say the other side attempting to wipe out its enemy is actually the ones committing the genocide.
Right. Right.
That's always going to blow up in your face.
There's no way it won't.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, latest on the Fani Willis disqualification hearing. New court filing claims that Fani Willis, warned Nathan Wade's lawyer to stay quiet about the affair. There's a witness to that conversation who said they are coming after us. So we'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. As I've already said, from what the judge said, and this was in part of the opening statements, it's not just a conflict of interest that gets you kicked off. It's a perception of a conflict of interest. That came from the judge.
And if that standard is the standard,
right,
then...
If the judge sticks by that standard, it's done already.
Yeah. Wow, can you imagine a 9-0 decision for Trump on the ballots and the Fani Willis thing coming down and imploding within days of each other?
Well, the interesting thing is I didn't know the policy on it, and I think, was it Megyn Kelly's podcast that we were watching, that I think both you and I watched, that they were saying that you just don't appoint another prosecutor in a case like this.
Oh, no, there's a process, which we had kind of heard, but we didn't know. They lined it out on her podcast how that would go.
Right. And so it's not all partisan Democrats that would be on that decision-making.
Right.
So if she's disqualified, it could be the end of the case completely.
That's crazy. I mean, look, the whole thing with the RICO Act and all this, clearly overcharging. So on its merits, this case is doomed. But then, oh my gosh, her ex-boyfriend's divorce lawyer or divorce and all of that playing into this and how it just shed light on everything. Wow. If there's ever a case for the whole Trump derangement syndrome and from start to finish, I mean, I know she ran on this, wanting to get Trump, but if there's ever a case of it imploding and backfiring, this is it.
I have a name for a new TV show.
Okay.
Lawfare and Order.
Yeah, there you go. All right. I like that.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Wow.
Yeah.
New accusations coming out against Donald Trump. These are brand new accusations from a variety of Democrats and Democrats in the media.
Let's talk about the fact that President Trump incited an insurrection.
His various cases of, he's got charges of inciting an insurrection.
Donald John Trump incited the erection.
They didn't like Donald Trump. They said he participated in an erection.
My gosh. Wow. Not that it happened just once from just one person.
No, right. Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Hey, well, look, I don't know what he's guilty of. I don't know what he's guilty of.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry, Senator Schumer. What? I don't want to be around for that impeachment hearing. I don't.
Oh,
I'm not. Yeah, there's so many lines that, and I'm not going to use them. It's because, yes, I am a child, but I will just not use them today.
Before we get to some other topics, this is a topic.
Yeah, okay.
So that made it sound like this isn't a topic, and it is.
Yeah.
All right. This is John Kirby on Fox responding to the fact that Biden had not met his own Border Patrol chief until last Thursday, the new Border Patrol chief, but never talked to the old one. This is great. This is really good. Listen to this here.
All right.
This is the problem with trying to defend this White House. Here we go.
John, how has he never spoken to, and you know what, we did some reporting on this earlier today, not only Raul Ortiz, the former chief of the Border Patrol, but the current chief of the Border Patrol, Chief Owens, who you pointed out he did meet with in Brownsville, but from what we could find out, they had never spoken before that. How is that possible?
Well, the president's engaged with the DHS. He's engaged with leadership there.
But why not the Border Patrol?
He's engaged with the Border Patrol. Martha, he was just down there at Brownsville meeting and talking to those folks directly and hearing from them
he never met with
about the situation on the ground.
Or current chief. The current chief he just met, he's been president for 3 years, just met him the other day.
He again, is engaged with everybody at DHS, including the Border Patrol down there.
That's when you have to sit there and say, John, you're not telling me the truth.
That's a lie.
You know it and I know it. That's a lie. But they won't do it. You know why? Because on Fox News, they want to keep John Kirby coming in. And they know if they tell the truth and are blunt with these people, they won't come on again.
You're lying, John.
And you and I have talked about this in broadcasting because, you know, we've dealt with it before, especially when we did day shows. And that's the fact of you are so excited to get, you know, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat on your show, that you're not going to go to the point where they don't come on again. So you'll let them get away with BS. And you see it, you see it especially when you bring on somebody of your own party and there's a ton of softball questions.
Right.
Because you know if you upset them in any way, they'll simply say, we're not going to come on again.
Yeah.
And so we've always asked the question, it's something that we've talked about, is it more important to have the guest and not confront them or not have the guest themselves and simply go after them for the things that they say publicly, which is exactly what they'd say if they came on your show anyway? Or is it good to bring them on once, as you and I've done many times before, they will never come on again, and you promote that fact that they won't come on again because you confront them on on their lies.
But nothing is more important than the truth.
But when I see that at times, and I've seen a ton of Kirby on Fox, and I'm like, pound him, blast him, call him a liar. Say, you know, look, you're lying. I'm not asking about that. Could you please stick to the question?
Right.
Don't you know? I'm not a part of the White House press corps, and you're Karine Jean-Pierre. I want an honest dialogue, and you're not being honest with me.
That's not the case. He's lying, and you know, I mean, it's the only thing you're going to get. It makes you wonder why the Kirby would even agree to go on, but I guess they have to do that. That's their job. In the wake of Raul Ortiz being on 60 Minutes, and then adding to the fact that the current Border Patrol chief, Raul Ortiz being the former Border Patrol chief, he hasn't met with either of them. Oh, by the way, guess what we might hear about this week or next? President Biden will be sitting down with the current Border Patrol chief to discuss blah, 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 blah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Give it a minute.
Wow.
Yeah. It's insane.
I know.
It is insane.
But you could see he didn't know what to say. He just kept repeating. So you say you're not meeting with people. We are meeting with people. No, you're not meeting with this person.
Right.
But we're meeting with the other person. It doesn't matter. It's not the person we're talking about.
He seriously is melding into William H. Macy from Fargo. Oh, yeah. Well, I know. I mean, he wasn't, I didn't sit down with the chief, but he was there the other day with the Border Patrol, and they were standing behind him, So, yeah. I mean, it's frustrating to no end. But, yeah, that's basically why they don't call him a liar. You're lying, John. That's not true. Tell me a sit-down meeting he had with those agents on the ground. Show me that. Show me that. You can't, because it didn't happen. Because you know how I know it didn't happen? Because they would have shown that, because that would have been the photo op.
Yeah, exactly.
Them standing behind him was the photo op. That's not a meeting. I want to see listen, I'm going to sit down with these folks and listen to them. And they're going to tell me their concerns. I'm here with the sector chief. I'm here with, and he should have been there with the Border Patrol chief. By the way, why wasn't the Border Patrol chief invited to be down there with him and meet with him? Then the current Border Patrol chief. Think about that.
When he did what?
When Biden went to the border the other day.
He was.
But he didn't meet with him.
He was walking with him, so that was the meet.
Right, but they didn't. Well, okay,
yeah.
They didn't sit down with him. Is the point?
Right. I don't know if that she accused him of doing that on Fox. He was saying she didn't meet. He didn't meet him until the other day.
Right.
So I don't know if they did sit together and chat.
Well, let me put it this way again. If they did, that would have been another photo opportunity.
Yeah, you're right. I agree with that.
I don't believe that it happened.
Okay, that's
although I can't prove it didn't happen. That would be because that would be a Trump thing to, by the way, presidential thing to do. But when you created the problem, though, you're basically facing your problem across the table. You're facing the people who have had to deal with the problem you've created.
Well, look, you and I can, when we put our political consultant hats on, the border's a problem. What do you want to see? Here's what I want to see. Here is the president with the Border Patrol chief and his aides, and you see them all discussing, and you see, the president, I can just see have the hand up, have the hand up, and you see the Border Patrol chief listening intently. You want that kind of photo shot. You want a border shot.
Preferably at a table,
right?
If you can, to show that you're going to sit down and take the time.
Right. That's what both you and I would want as political consultants. I want that type of imagery. The other type of imagery I would want is the president out in the field with a bunch, not like Biden had, where they're all standing behind him, and you see the looks on their faces. They don't want to be there at all. But what you have is he's surrounded by Border Patrol agents. Let's say a semicircle of Border Patrol agents around him. You see him, different shots, discussing and talking, with different Border Patrol agents, and you catch them, thinking, laughing with him. Yeah. He really got to know the Border Patrol agents and everything else. And you have like 5 different photos. One or two inside, the actual meeting going on with the Border Patrol chief and his aides, and then out in the field with the Border Patrol agents in, various things, looking at them. You had Trump, for example, apparently waving to some of the illegal immigrants attempting to cross. Did you see that photo?
Yeah.
And he's there right there, but he's there with Border Patrol agents.
Right.
There's people there with him, and it's like, no, excuse me, with the state of Texas. He was there with the state. It was the governor, and I don't know if there were Border Patrol agents there.
Yeah.
I don't know
if Border Patrol was there or if that was state.
I'm assuming the Border Patrol got the message, nobody near Trump.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I want to go, but it looked like Trump looked more official than Biden did.
Oh, by far. I think that's why they had to jump on sending Biden after they found out Trump was going. Trump was going to look presidential in that setting because he owns the issue. You know, someone asked me, you know, about, for those that haven't heard, I went to high school with Raul Ortiz. I know him. And then someone asked me, you know, hey, something about his political views. And I said, I can't tell you. All I can tell you is he's pro-border enforcement because that's the only way, and that's the only thing I can speak for him on. You know, and because I don't like speaking for people.
Has he done that his whole life? Did he start with
32 years? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he started really. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was. I mean, it's. I look at it, and basically that was kind of the move from my friends in Del Rio. A lot of them became teachers. Some went into other things, but Border Patrol and teachers were the two biggest groups of people. They went off in those directions. I have friends who have been in the Border Patrol for almost as long, actually, other friends. I can tell you that Raul is supportive of anyone, president or not, who is in support of enforcing the border. That was his mission statement for 32 years. I don't have to talk to him in order to get that from him. I think that's a given. It's a well-duh statement. And Biden, as he pointed out on 60 Minutes the other day, that tells the story. He didn't need to get into any political this or that. Raul said it. I didn't meet with the vice president or the president while I was chief.
Once.
Not even once.
Never had a discussion with them once.
That says everything. Because it would be the White House that would reach out to him. They would, the incoming administration, or whenever. It didn't have to be, from day one, but at some point. But Biden doesn't care about it. The whole thing with the photo ops, if you look at it, you get from Donald Trump, both in 2016 and 2020, and now in 24. This is a core issue for him. He was the guy promoting building the wall. So you get from him that he supports the Border Patrol and their efforts to enforce the southern border.
Right.
This isn't difficult. This isn't one of those political issues that has many sides. No. It's either you're open border or you are for protecting the border. It's one or the other.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. When driving, you need to manage the space around your vehicle so that there's enough space to allow you to adjust when traffic conditions change. The space ahead of your vehicle is the most important and one of the easiest to monitor and adjust as needed. One rule of thumb is to allow at least 1 second for each 10 feet of vehicle length at speeds below 40 miles per hour. At greater speeds, add an additional second. It's impossible to keep other drivers from tailgating you, but there are some things you can do to make it safer, such as increasing your following distance, avoiding quick lane changes, and slowing down. There are also several things you should do to ensure that there is plenty of space between the side of your vehicle and other vehicles. Don't hug the center line, avoid hugging the right side of the road, and avoid traveling alongside other vehicles in strong winds, especially crosswinds. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Last week we had talked about some of the economic inflation numbers that were out there and said, Doesn't look good. And I think it was yesterday you said you don't hear a lot of people talking about 4 rate cuts and let's start cutting the rates. We're ready to march, aren't we?
We are.
And you don't hear that talk like you did 3 months ago.
Right.
And you and I said, it's maybe premature.
Mm-hmm.
And then I read this here. Atlanta Fed president warns rate cut could reignite inflation.
Well, yeah.
There's significant risk that a rate cut from the Federal Reserve could rekindle inflation. Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic said on Monday in an essay published on the Atlanta Fed's website. Bostic argued that the Fed should take a cautious approach to the economy because of the danger that high inflation remains and easing monetary policy could fan the flames of rising prices.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, Bostic warned that a premature rate cut could trigger a surge of business activity that would raise demand and push inflation even higher.
Well, it's basically what we were lining out yesterday. You know, if you want to go that route to try and spur the economy, well, then you're going to keep hurting consumers because inflation will just come back even stronger, and inflation isn't completely tamed. Prices are still on the rise, and there's not going to be any magic bullet here because the Fed was never serious about inflation, in my opinion, and didn't act aggressively enough. You didn't get on top of it completely.
You know, I've always asked a question, and this probably for a different time, but it always sits in the back of my mind. We know how our currency is judged.
Yeah.
Our currency is judged by the free market.
Right.
The International Currency Exchange. Why can't interest rates be market-based?
There's only a little bit of market-based influence, and I'm with you on that. On the larger, when it comes to the larger picture, I think it should be, or I think there's an argument for why it should be.
That's why I'm asking. I'm asking
someone
the question.
could defeat
Right.
that argument, maybe that knows
Right.
more about that. But I have a problem with the Fed and the manipulation there because, again, in this case, you're saying you want to do this, but you're not actually doing the job. You're not getting it done. They didn't. They didn't get on top of inflation the way they should have. And
I don't even hear people like Rand Paul or even Ron Paul say, why can't the interest rate be market-based?
Right. Yeah.
There may be a great answer.
Right, sure. I'm with you on that.
I never hear it discussed.
It is a good question.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, so I've always thought about that, and this is in relation to the story we were reading about the Atlanta Fed's president warns that a rate cut could reignite inflation. And, you know, I asked the question, and I've asked this question, I don't know, dozens of times, maybe. Well, I've been doing this a long time, so 35 years. Maybe I've asked it 100 times because I probably have asked it twice a year or 3 times a year since I've been a talk show host.
I think we've
discussed it.
Discussed it before, yeah.
And the question was simply, why we heard like things like audit the Fed, which it's like, okay, what does that actually mean? Audit the Fed, but I'll take it a step further. I understand that you need to control the amount of currency. That I understand completely.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, the Fed setting, their target interest rate, why can't that be done in the free market? For example, our currency is judged based on other currencies, which in the International Currency Exchange, which means, it's not that what the Fed sets on interest rates doesn't affect the currency, because it does, but the currency itself is judged by other currencies and bidding and trading currencies, as we know.
Right, yeah.
And so you could look at that and say, okay, that's market-based. Why can't the Fed rate be market-based. What you would hear is because there'd be too many great fluctuations, right?
Yeah.
There'd be too many great fluctuations because of the market. Maybe there initially would be. But as you and I said, for example, we go back to something else. We go back to the mortgage crisis, which was caused by government manipulation of the mortgage market. That's what it was caused by.
Right.
It was caused by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Yep.
And if they hadn't existed, we would have not had, might have had some problems. We would not have even come close to the problems that we had. And then the response from the government was to hide where the problem was.
Yeah.
Remember, by demanding that all banks had to take a bailout, so you couldn't figure out what banks were in trouble. And we said, well, no, that's the last thing you want to do.
Right.
Because then you have the great unknown. Well,
you muddied all the waters.
Right. And we always looked at that and said, because you don't know. And so we were willing to admit, yes, that let's say there were no bailouts at all. We would know the banks that were exposed at that point. It might cause a higher recession and more unemployment temporarily, but you would know where the bottom was. And the question we ask is, and it's tough to come up with a definitive analysis of something that didn't happen, but if you were able to, if the financial world knew what banks were the problems, then you could solve that problem and move on.
Yeah.
And so we're willing to accept the fact that if you didn't have the bailouts, unemployment might have been worse, and that recession might have been a little bit longer. Our question is, would you recuperate much faster? When you look at, for example, the 70s, we had inflation for 10 years. Would inflation happen for 10 years if it was market-based? That would be the question I would have to the economists to debate, and do it in terms that I can understand.
Yeah.
I like how the last part of it.
Would it create more chaos, or would it reduce the chaos?
Yes. I would like to be haunted this morning when I go home and go to sleep by the ghost of Milton Friedman. The spirit of Milton Friedman. To get into my dream and find out what he would have, because I never saw him address that question.
I was about to say, I never saw that once from him.
He might have. I just, I don't know where it's on tape where he did it, where you could find that. And that question's, we've heard of get rid of the Fed, audit the Fed. Well, what if you just said the Fed rate would be market-based, which would be, what are banks willing to pay? When you have the transfer of money between, what would they be willing to pay? What would the market forces say the interest rate should be for that particular day? So I just threw that out there, drew it out for discussion. I'm not, again, I just look at it and I see, you and I.
Well, because it's not the same. I mean, the product is the money, right?
Yes.
But I shouldn't say it isn't the same. My question would be, is it the same? Should we not view it as the same as looking at any other product based on its principal role in an economy, right? Maybe it should be viewed exactly the same. But the point being, when you talk about supply and demand, when there is a glut, prices drop. When there's great demand, prices go up. We see that on a number of products. And with innovation, we see at the beginning of innovation, at the start of maybe a new level of innovation, an expansion of innovation or technology, I should say, then, of course, what was the starting price for a 40-inch TV? It was a couple grand. What was it? I mean, it was very
If
expensive.
you wanted, I remember a 32-inch, what were they called? Remember, there was the plasma, and what was the other one?
Oh, dang it. I'll think of it.
Yeah, there was and I know somebody who bought a 32-inch.
Plasma and LCD?
Was it LCD? Is that what they called it? Okay.
I'd have to go back and look. But the technology.
32-inch, probably around 2003, maybe.
A 32-inch?
32-inch would have been
Wow.
$4,000.
Yeah.
$3,000 to $4,000.
You mean a 40-inch would be?
No, 32.
A 32-inch was?
32, that's, yep.
Wow. Suckers. So, with the expansion of production on that and then competition coming into play, the technology became common. And now you can get a 32-inch TV. I think you get a free Thanksgiving turkey and a 32-inch TV if you spend so much on groceries. I'm not sure about that. I could be wrong.
If you open up a passbook account at the local bank with a minimum of $500,
you get this set of jars,
you get a 75-inch
a toaster,
LCD
a 75-inch TV, a Thanksgiving turkey. But the point being is that, as production develops, as the technology develops, there is more desirable technology still at the top end. I mean, you can go out and spend as much money as you want on a laptop. Ask any YouTuber who does any editing, and what's required for editing and everything else. So, you can, or as I like to call it, Apple. The expensive line, or as I like to call it, Apple. You can spend as much money as you want. There's always the more desirable technology. So in the marketplace, we talk about supply and demand, but then what limits that dynamic? What would limit that dynamic?
Maybe I should go back. Maybe I should go back to 2000, 2001, because 2005, a flat panel LCD TV was $599, a 32-inch.
Okay.
$999 for a 42-inch. So they were coming down at that point.
Okay.
But I must be talking about because 2001, 2002, whatever it was, I remember going in and I went, my God, these are way too expensive. Who in the world would buy these things? So, and I'm sure it was a friend of mine bought a 32-inch and it was like $3,000 to $4,000. So that might have been $2,000 or something like that.
Right.
Because they did come down quickly. So
and here's the thing too, because it's not about supply and demand. It is in part about demand for borrowing, but it's not in terms of money. It's not about supply, because we all know we can print more. But it is about also for banks. It's also about deposits, and so it's about what the money is doing and everything else. So it's an interesting question. I would love to hear an expert talk on that.
Okay, here's some where people are looking back that in 2004, one paid $2,000 for a 30-inch Philips widescreen flat screen.
Wow.
So, again, it was when LED LCD screens first came out in 2008 or so, they were $7K or so, and people were willing to pay it. I remember that if you tried to get a 55-inch, they were over 10. There was like $10,000 to $12,000. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Now you can go in and get a. It might not be. What is it? It might not be the best LED TV out there, but you can get what? You can get a 55-inch, 65-inch for $499.
Yeah.
These days.
Yeah.
But they were when they first, and I can't remember when they first came out. I just don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I just don't remember.
Yeah.
So when I said 2005, it looks like on some of them I was wrong. It'd be interesting to go back and look at all the different prices if you could actually get the manufacturers to, show you the ads that they were running or what just the inventory list price was at that point.
Right.
But I understand the point. They've come down drastically.
Yeah. And, so you see that supply and demand type and advancement of technology in pricing. But that, the advancement in technology is also, again, part of that demand. if you want the latest and greatest, well, it's still going to cost you. If you want, if you're okay with the common technology that ketchup eaters buy and use, then you can go with that. But I think it stands to reason that in trying to determine what the market value of money would be, and lending and borrowing, yes. What's the demand for this kind of loan? But it's also about the qualification of that loan. And so someone with an 825 FICO score is going to get greater qualifications and may qualify for a lower interest rate. With lower credit, higher interest rates. So there is that market principle, that plays into it. But that isn't just about supply and demand. So it would be interesting to look and see if anyone has ever, if Milton Friedman himself or anyone has ever applied Milton Friedman's economic principles to interest rates. Because I don't remember seeing those conversations, but maybe he did.
I went to the New York Times. They came down drastically between 2000 and 2005.
Yeah.
In 2000, a plasma TV, 50-inch screen, $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
50-inch. Wow. According to the New York
$20,000.
$20,000.
Oh, you got your money out of that, didn't you? Nothing like episode. What time? What year?
This would have been. This article came out in August 30th of 2005, and they write full-featured plasma TVs with 50-inch screens that sold for $20,000 5 years ago could edge closer to $4,000 in 2005.
Wow.
I know.
$20,000 for a TV.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Interesting discussion, though, just on Fed rates. And thanks for putting my mind on what did TVs cost 20 years ago?
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Well, it's funny because I found some discussions, and one answer was central banks only decide the benchmark rates, and we know that, which the commercial rates decided in the marketplace. In other words, again, if you have an 850 FICO score, then you're going to get a better rate. Without these reference rates, the market would not be able to decide on rates, which brings about more questions than real answers on that last part. But and that's what the central bank is. Our central bank, the Fed, has been doing the benchmark.
Well, why?
And that's my question.
Why
is it that the banks wouldn't be able to decide?
Right.
Or is it the fear that there would be collusion within the banks, which there's been accusations of that for a long time. Anyway,
well,
they're all colluding to keep the commercial rates, not the benchmark rate, but commercial rates at this level or whatever.
Is that any different? Let me ask you this. Is there collusion within the Fed to set interest rates based on what they view as a priority at the time and not what people would actually borrow money for?
Right.
Or banks would borrow money for?
Right. Yeah, if you're talking about their motive. Right, exactly.
And again, I'm asking questions. I'm not making a statement by asking the question.
Exactly.
I truly want to know.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.